Hi everybody, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. Thank you very much for joining me. Now recently I said I haven't been buying very many records, and I really haven't, so I'm going to share another dozen today, which are records which I just haven't listened to for a very long time, that have been in my collection for a long time as well. But I have bought two new albums, so I'll just quickly share those. The first one is this one, Equals One by Deep Purple. So people who watch this channel regularly will know I'm a big Deep Purple fan, and this is their latest album with a new lineup of the band. I think it's Mark 11, I can't remember. It's got a new guitarist, and it's Simon McBride, and he plays really well on here. He's a good kind of, not less riffing kind of guitarist, more of a solo kind of guitarist, but this is a decent album. Certainly the first couple of songs are good, and then it dips and then it gets a little bit better, and I've only listened to it a couple of times. I'm not in a position to give it a massive review at the moment, but it's quite an Ian Gillan album. The songs are short and he's very much to the fore. The other one, and I was delighted to pick this up, this is Warhorse. This is their debut album, and it features Nick Simper, who was in the original form of Deep Purple Mark 1, and this is a first press, a Vertigo first press of Warhorse's first album, so I was really delighted to add that to the collection. So these are the albums that I have been listening to that I haven't listened to for a very long time. The first one is this is Comes a Time by Neil Young. It's a bit folky, it's a bit country, possibly in the style of like Harvest and Harvest Moon. I think the lyrics are quite inspired by relationships, possibly autobiographical in some ways. I often feel with Neil Young albums that there's just a couple of decent songs and quite a lot of filler, but I think this has got a lot more. It's kind of a really relaxing acoustic album. It's relaxing, it's laid back, it's some really gorgeous harmonies on there. Going Back is a great opener, and Four Strong Winds is a really good closer. So I really enjoyed that, and I haven't played that for years. I haven't played this one for years either. This is The Correct Use of Soap by Magazine. This is their third album, and it's the last one with John McGeoch, who left to go and play with Susie and the Banshees after this. It's a return to the kind of punkier riffs and the more up-tempo kind of songs that Real Life had, and it's slightly more poppier than the previous album, which was called Secondhand Daylight, which was quite a dark album. The opener, Because You're Frightened, is really good. It has that very typical kind of trademark John McGeoch guitar jangle. Song that opens up side 2, I Want to Burn Again. It's one of my favourite Magazine songs. It's 6 minutes and it's great. And you can see when you listen to that song why John McGeoch was so influential. There's also a really kind of spaced out version of a Sly and Family Stone song called Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again, which is kind of a strange kind of cover, but is this better than Real Life? Possibly could be, actually. Possibly could be. Next up is this is UK, and this is the debut album from a kind of a British kind of progressive rock supergroup, really. It's released in '78. It's a real proggy guitar album, and one of the reasons for that is it features Alan Holdsworth. So the track that opens up the album, In the Dead of Night, it's about 5.5 minutes. It's probably UK's signature song, and the highlight of that song is Alan Holdsworth guitar solo. It's about 90 seconds longish, and it's just technically brilliant, perfectly formed, beautifully executed, as is all the guitar throughout this album. Allegedly that guitar solo was just improvised, which kind of doesn't surprise me with Alan Holdsworth. And this album certainly brought him to a wider audience, because there was a couple of people on here that were already, big players. Bill Bruford's on here, so he was in Yes and King Crimson. John Wetton from Family and King Crimson. Eddie Jobson, who was in Roxy Music, Curved Air. They had made their name prior to this, but I think Alan Holdsworth, this was his kind of breakthrough, really. So it's a super group of fairly epic proportions, what's one song on here? That 30 Years. That's got some amazing drumming from Bill Bruford on it. So possibly 1978, possibly the last hurrah for prog rock in the 1970s. Next up is a band, I've played other albums by them, but I've not played this one, and I don't really know why. This is Candy O by the Cars. Now, this is produced by Roy Thomas Baker. It's a rockier album, I think, than their debut. I thought their debut was just brilliant. So it's got really kind of clever, punchy arrangements. The musicianship is really good. The songs themselves are really good. Got a really good kind of bottom end, muscular bass to it, kind of textured keyboards. I don't think it's power pop. I think it's rockier than that, and it rocks more, for example, than Cheap Trick do. Let's Go was a single, which is pretty good. You know, they often talk about a difficult second album. Yeah, it's difficult when you have to follow up something as good as their debut. It's less polished than their debut, but it's more rocky and probably worth picking up and worth reappraising for that. Next up is American band Talking Heads, and this is Speaking in Tongues, which I to be honest, this came out in '83. It's that their fourth, fifth album. It's a bit of a crossover album. It retains that kind of arty awkwardness that Talking Heads always have, but it's quite dancey. It's quite funky. In fact, I think it's Talking Heads at their absolute funkiest. The whole album has kind of like a happy, kind of groovy kind of energy to it, and it just keeps it going throughout the whole album. Burning Down the House is a really good opener. Fantastic stuff. For me, David Byrne, though, he remains vocally quite an acquired taste. But yeah, good album from Talking Heads. Next up is Howard Jones. I haven't played this for God knows how long. This is the 12-inch album. Now, I think what Howard Jones had was a real gift for crafting lovely melodic hooks that made some of his hits, and there are some of them there, some of the most memorable of that era. Most of the songs on here, a couple of new ones, but most of the songs are from Humans Live, which was the album before, and I think there are improvements on there. Always Asking Questions is a new one, as is Pearl in the Shell, which fit the album really well. I've lost any passion I might have had for Howard Jones as the years gone on, but he has the knack of making impeccably good 80s synth albums, and that's a good example. Next up is British blues band Stray. I haven't played this for, I don't know, 20 years. I couldn't remember any of it. This is the third album from this band. They're from England. Compared with certainly their debut, which I have, it's a bit of a step back. It's good. It's solid, kind of bluesy, hard rock kind of stuff. Excellent guitars, possibly little touches of psych rock. It was, I think it came out in 72, 71, somewhere around about that. It's the third album. It's called Saturday Morning Pictures. And it's part produced by Martin Birch, who went on to really big things in the 70s and into the 80s, sadly departed, but a wonderful producer. Vocals on here are interesting, quite raspy, gravelly, and you often wonder, is he going to make it to the end of the song? Have a drink, mate. But I think the standout is the guitar. It's fantastic. There's a song on here, what's it called? Our Song, I think, which is pretty good. It might have even been a single. Sister Mary's are good. There's a kind of unexpected little folk rock closer called Oh Queen of the Sea, which is okay. Demonstrates that this band can kind of conjure up fairly melodic kind of commercial melodies with harmony vocals. They're not bad, but The Secret Weapon, Del Bronham, who's their guitarist, and he obviously loves a power chord. And a song here called How Could I Forget You, and it really makes your speakers buzz. But yeah, interesting album. Maybe nowhere near as good as their first one, but all right. Haven't played this for years. Leonard Cohen. Oh God, if you feel depressed, you don't play this. He sounds so bitter and angry and world weary, doesn't he? I mean, it's decent enough, but it's quite a difficult listen, really. I think it probably takes more than just one listen, which is all I gave it, really, for kind of the lyrics, which are quite deep, to really kind of lodge themselves in your head. But there's some decent music on there. It's quite dark stuff. It's fairly crap in places as well. It's quite a difficult listen. It's quite intense. It's quite emotional. I'm not sure where this ranks in his albums generally, but yeah, it's okay. Next up are a band that are quite difficult to pigeonhole, and maybe that's the beauty of them in some ways. This is the debut album from the Teardrop Explodes, Kilimanjaro. Now, I've played Reward and heard Reward on the radio quite a few times, but the rest of the album I'd completely forgotten about. Hard to choose a standout track because it's packed with really good songs. I love Treason, Sleeping Gas, Reward. I love Reward. But Thief of Baghdad's a really good song as well. The closer, When I Dream, is good. Julian Cope is a really good singer and a really good frontman, and his lyrics are clever and he has a really strong voice. There's lots of kind of hummable choruses, great arrangements, really good production, good range of songs. It's not trying to be new wave, it's not trying to be synth pop, it's distinctive, and it's the debut album from Teardrop Explode, who I think are from Liverpool, aren't they? Next up is an album by a guy who did quite a lot of scores for films. He did Mission Impossible, Enter the Dragon, Dirty Harry. It's Lalo Schifrin, and this is called Black Widow, which is like jazz, if you like, with a kind of dance-friendly rhythm of disco. There is a version on here, a really imaginative reworking of Jaws, the theme. You know, that amazing John Williams kind of spooky, you know, so famous, isn't it? That movie theme tune that comes at the beginning. Doo-dum, doo-dum. That's it's this brilliant, ominous slice of funk with wah-wah guitars and jazzy keyboard. I love it. It's really good fun listen, that. And so I was pleased to play that again. I haven't played that for a very long time. And I haven't played this, and I don't know why, because this is absolutely brilliant, this album. This is the 11th one in the pile. This is Malpractice by Dr. Feelgood, which is their second album, I think. Classic lineup: Lee Brillo on vocals, Wilco Johnson on guitar. It's another kind of classic helping of, you know, down and dirty rock and roll. It's a classic record. This it's packed full of kind of really good songs. There's the raunchy Back in the Night, Another Man's great. The angry Watch Your Step. The really playful song, You Shouldn't Call the Doctor If You Can't Afford the Bills. There's some covers on here as well, Rolling and Tumbling, Cell Block Number 9. Going Back Home, which they later re-recorded with Roger Daltrey, and this is the original. Brilliant. Absolutely tremendous song. Lee Brillo's vocals are great. He just growls his way through the entire album, and then that backing, you know, the guys on rhythm are fantastic, but that distinctive kind of Wilco Johnson sound. It's just classic rock and roll, very much in the kind of spirit of, not Chuck Berry, but it's just got that sense of fun, but with a very, very distinctive British twist. If you like foot tapping music, again, I love this. Great song, great album. And the last one up is Australian band. This is like good time rock and roll as well, from 1978. This is the debut album. British cover, so it's slightly different maybe to covers around the world possibly. This is Rock and Roll Outlaws by Rose Tattoo with the frontman Angry Anderson. I remember seeing this band live. They were really good fun, actually. Really, really good fun and really loud. Side 1 is tremendous. Rock and Roll Outlaw, Nice Boys, Butcher and Fast Eddie. One of the boys is great. Remedy, what a fantastic song that is. The Bad Boy for Love that opens up side 2 is tremendous. The song that closes the album, Astral Wally, just fantastic. This is just good time, kind of rocking rhythm and blues, really, with a very heavy twist and lots of slide guitar. I love it, and I haven't played that for years, and I don't know, my neighbours particularly liked it because no one was in this house and I cranked it up, but it's brilliant, and I really enjoyed that. So there's 12 albums I haven't played for a while. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'm sure I'll be back sometime soon with another video. Cheers.